Hi everyone, this is Meenakshi Verma, your emotional wellness coach, and today I'm here to talk about something really interesting. Now, this is something that I have understood. This is based on my knowledge, having worked with my female mentees over the 2 years, and whatever it is that I could understand about the masculine energy, the feminine energy, what it can do, what it does, how can you balance it, what needs to, what efforts need to be taken, whatever, again, whatever it is that I could understand, I'm putting it out here for all of you to really understand it, align with it, and whatever you don't align with, criticize it. Go ahead and criticize it as well, because this is more like a discussion that I want to put out there into the world. Now, having said that, a lot of you might have come across a lot of information around masculine energy, feminine energy, and again, the Shiva and the Shakti, the yin and the yang. But how does it really help us? How do we connect with it? Because all of these concepts, they are very standard, like they are very idealized. So how do we, who are not perfect, how do we align to that idea? And how can we be better than what we are right now? Now, this is my effort through this entire video. And here we go. So, allow me to quickly share my screen. And, when I was thinking about this topic, I chose this topic, feminine self image, from a very specific perspective. The perspective was that we all talk about, again, the feminine and the masculine energy on one side, and we talk about the self image, self worth, self esteem on one side. But what happens when you put the two of them together? What really happens? So, here is a question that I have for all of you. Define the feminine self image. What is your definition of feminine self image? How do you see your feminine self image, or how do you see that standard of a feminine self image that you might want to achieve one day? You can pause this video in case you want and give out certain definitions, or you can also give certain adjectives that would define this particular feminine self image for you. And once you have done that, I want you to take 5 more minutes, because really spend time on this. Take 5 more minutes and define what is your self image, your current self image right now. So there are two things that you have to do. One is define the self image, the feminine self image, and define what is your current self image. Do that. Because when you do it, you will find that there is a huge gap between the two. And this we are doing just for females, right? So once you do it, you will find that there are a lot of contradictions. I mean, what you define your feminine self-image as is very different from either who you want to be, or who you are. It's not really aligned in the direction where this feminine self-image should be. And most of the times, you see, whenever I worked with, again, my female mentees, and we have tried to do this exercise, define the standard self-image, feminine self-image, and their own current self-image, they've always come with these three things in their mind. Like at the end of it, we have figured out these three things. And those three things are shame, sacrifice, and the sense of a burden. So no matter what, these females have understood that at the end of the day, I have to take efforts because no one else will. Or it is my burden to do certain things. Or if I don't do certain things, I'm actually not worthy enough. So there is often a feeling of shame, sacrifice, and burden. Like, for example, you will also have your own definitions and adjectives for the so called feminine self image. But in general, whenever I have connected with my female mentees and we have started talking about it, they have always come up with the idea that, you see, I have this image of a female who has long hair and she wears sari, or she wears a very flowy clothes, and She looks very soft and kind, and she's nurturing, and she's the epitome of the standard female version of what we have in our minds. But if I have to give you one break to those train of thoughts, then I need to tell you that the standard, if this is the standard that you're creating somewhere and you are feeling that, oh, you know what, I don't have long hair, or I don't dress in a certain way, or, I am not soft enough, I'm not kind enough in a certain way, then I am not in my feminine energy, then you need to stop somewhere because, to be honest, again, this is what I've understood. Your masculine and the feminine energy is not really dependent on the definition that is out there in the world. Now, listen to this very carefully. Your definition, or the idea of your feminine self image, it is not dependent on any definition that is out there in the world. You need to basically connect to yourself and understand what would be your personal best version, because that is what will help you define, again, emphasis on your feminine self image. You get it? It's not about some standard that has been created, because see, yes, it is going to be a difficult exercise, I am sure, but you need to understand, and you need to understand again how most of the definitions that are given are coming from the patriarchal controlled spaces. They're not often your definitions, it's the idea, the way you have been brought up and programmed over a period of time. So when we talk about, you can just go ahead and you can check what are the different small fundamental, fundamental basic things which are associated with feminine and the masculine energy, and you'll understand that it is not just about the softness and the kindness. It's more about creation. It's more about creativity. It's more about either protection or some or the other thing. But it is not just one thing, one specific thing. And when you figure out all of those adjectives that are listed on several places, you need to understand why is it, or you need to understand rather, what is your definition of kindness, what is your definition of creativity. Your creativity could be in technology, your creativity could be in cooking, your creativity could be in creating something, or your creativity could be in business, your creativity could be in creating a website. So allow yourself to start defining each and every adjective that you get for this feminine energy, and then start redefining the idea, the definition of a feminine self image for you. So this is the first task that you have to do at your own pace. So you can just write this question down, and whenever you make time for yourself, or whenever you journalize, whenever you have your me time, answer this. Or rather, once you finish this video, sit down with all the questions that I'm going to ask you in this video, and then work on it, because this is for you, this is not for me. Now, usually whenever I have talked to females about certain things, they have often talked about shame, sacrifice, and burden when we are talking about their own personal self-image. So if you remember, initially I asked you two things: define the feminine self-image, and define what is your current self-image for yourself. So when you do that, when you define your self-image, current self-image, you will come somewhere in these three categories put together: shame, the feeling of shame, the feeling of sacrifice, the feeling of burden. Whenever I've worked with my female mentees, I've often heard them say statements like, Meenakshi, I've given my best to the people around me, and then I've been empty. So, I never received anything. So I've given everything out, and that's it. That's just it. I'm all empty now. Or I have to mother certain people in certain way, or I have to be nice to certain people in certain way, because only then I'm worthy of relationship. So let those other people be narcissists and energy vampires, but I have to do certain things because I have learned over a period of time that I need to do certain things so that people love me back. My dear child, you have learned control over a period of time, not connection. Right? So if you have any such of those feelings, you need to understand that your current self-image is coming from these three basic fundamental things that most of the times women are, they are made to face or identify with. Now, what are the reasons for these three things? Why do we feel this shame, sacrifice, and burden? What are the reasons for it? The first one is patriarchal bargain. What is patriarchal bargain? You see, since childhood, we are somewhere taught that you have to bow down before that patriarchy. That patriarchy could be anyone, by the way, female, male, it can be anyone who is following that particular regime of control. They are patriarchy basically. So they will always keep you in a space, in a position, to always have this mindset that no matter what you do, you're not doing enough. You're never enough. And they will train you to put themselves before yourself. So you will always have this idea, no, 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 I have to always think about them, I have to always do for them, I will always have to give to them before doing it for myself. And then again, you have this entire idea out there of giving and receiving. So you're always made to think that you have to give, and somehow the universe will help you receive some things. But the problem with all of those ideas is this, that no matter how many times you've been taught to give, you're never taught to receive. You're never really taught to receive, right? And this is why it actually becomes really difficult for women. And I'm really sorry to say this, but it becomes really difficult for a lot of women out there to actually take action for themselves and do certain things, because they've always been taught that I have to give, I have to do for my son, I have to do for my daughter, I have to do for my husband, I have to do for my house. Where am I in that list? Apparently nowhere. So you need to start understanding the patriarchal bargain, because this patriarchal bargain is more about you giving and you never receiving. And they're always telling you that, sorry, you know what, we promised you certain things, but hey, what you're giving, it's not actually enough. So that's patriarchal bargain. The second is being stuck in low end work. Now, what do I mean by that? Initially, again, a lot of us will confuse it with the so-called low tasks. Like you might say that, Meenakshi, if you're talking about cooking is a basic skill, or cleaning the house is a basic skill. Everybody should know it. So, hey, how are these low-end tasks or works? But hear me out. You know, most of the times in most of the households, you will see that women are actually stuck with low end work, like making sure the laundry is done, making sure the food is cooked, or the house is clean, and she cannot actually rest. So even if the machine is doing most of the work, it will be she who will get up and switch on the um switch it on, put in the soap, and just do the entire thing. So she will always carry this burden that if I have to switch on the washing machine, it is me. It will never be the burden of someone else in the house. It is only she who will make sure of all of these things. So, what I'm trying to say is, yes, a lot of these things are life skills, but who ends up doing it most of the time, or who ends up making taking responsibility for it? Because the more you are involved in all of these low end tasks, small things to be done throughout the day, you don't have the time, space, and energy left for something else. And if I have to really widen the concept of the low end task, scrolling on the phone, being worried about small things, small problems, that person said this to me, and now I'm just thinking about him or her. That person behaved in this way or looked at me in that way. Somewhere, all of these things that we are trained to believe or trained to think around, all of these are low end work and thoughts. Just think about it for a while. What are you doing with yourself? How are you really training yourself? Most of the times, you will find men not really worrying about most of the things again. But when we are talking about female professionals, they sometimes are really sensitive to all the non-verbal criticisms or feedbacks that they might get or might not get from their colleagues or their bosses. So it's like a constant pressure for them to think about the solution that is there in those small, tiny challenges that are put towards them. Like, for example, I was working with one of my female mentees, and she has a physical challenge, a physical disease that she's suffering from at this point of time, but she's coming out of it. So that's a good thing. But, as we are working on her, what we realize that a small thing like cutting the vegetables or maybe climbing the stairs, it has become a challenge because the mind has created a small thing as a huge problem. And when the mind did that, the space in the head for anything creative that could have been there, it's just gone. So what is happening is the person is constantly stuck in the low end work. The third is free but not liberated. Now, this is a very important topic. How most of the times women, now, since we're talking about women, this is as much true as for men as well, but since we're talking about females, how you are free, but you're not still liberated or empowered. So I've been reading this book. This is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. So this is known to be one of the seminal works in the feminist history. And it talks about what needs to be done and why is it that it is necessary for females to have their rights, their place, their voice. And in this, I came across this beautiful and reflective, thoughtful line, which in the 1950s argued that, and quote, man thinks himself without a woman. So for a man, it is okay to think of himself without a woman. Now, woman does not think of herself without a man. So even today, if you see, after what, 75 years maybe, women, they are able to think about themselves and they are able to earn well and they are really able to do a lot of things better than a lot of people. But are they liberated or empowered? Having extramarital affairs or getting in certain substance abuse or getting some or the other dis-ease or somewhere not being happy with your life despite it being successful professionally, what are you doing? Are you really liberated and empowered? Because here is what I have observed from my space. Whenever I've got to work with people who are like, well off and they are at a really good position in their life, they have problems in their life which are due to the simple issue of feeling liberated or empowered. Like, for example, whenever I've worked with certain clients of mine from metropolitan cities, let's say like Gurgaon or, Mumbai or some other place, people have often come up with this problem of getting themselves in substance abuse. So, often like again certain different addictions and so on and so forth, and their children also being addicted to certain things, or maybe they having their children having panic attacks or anxiety attacks or not knowing what to do in life. So basically they have a lot of money but they don't have the sense of direction in life and they don't know how to create connections. They all are distant to one another and they are basically not liberated or empowered. They went from one toxic space of prison to something else. So it's from one cage to another. For example, a young woman, she gets a job in a different country or in a different place. So she belongs to a small place. She goes to a well-known place and she is really doing well for herself. But somehow she gets herself trapped in certain things. Now, yes, outside she could be looking as a free woman out there, but is she really liberated and empowered from within? Because not being actually empowered or liberated is the problem. Like, I'll give you one small example from my personal life. So I'm a single child, and it will so happen that I will end up having a lot of things to me, like they will be left to me. And one day, so an electrician came to our house and nobody was there, basically. Us all females were there. And I was getting really irritated because my mom, she kept asking me to go downstairs and make sure how the electrician is working and, bargain with him and give him the money and so on and so forth. And for some reason, I was really irritated. I was like, why do I have to do these things? Like, why do I need to go down there and talk to him? Because, yeah, you might, connect it with the low end work that I'm talking about, but just, listen to me and understand the context. So I was getting really irritated. And I also had the same thought that why do I need to go downstairs and talk to him? I mean, I don't want to talk to him. And I just don't want to be responsible for something like that. And then my mom said that, see, one day you're going to get a lot of things and make sure that you are actually in a position to own a lot of things. That day, let's say if you have to handle something like this, maybe an electrician coming or something, how will you really do it if you have never done it in your life? Because this is a skill again that you have to learn, which doesn't mean that you have to always do it, but as someone who will own certain things, you will have to learn it as a skill. That is actually liberation, where we are not talking about that you have to do it. Like cooking. Cooking is a skill that we all should definitely know. But if, let's say, you end up doing it most of the times, like, you are doing it every single day and you're taking a lot of burden for it, and you're not just cooking for yourself, you're cooking for an entire family and no one is helping you, then you need to really think about it. It's like, or let's say, there basically what I'm trying to say, there needs to be a balance. Let's say you do the cooking and someone else does something else. So the task is balanced. But let's say you end up doing everything, then it's a problem. Then you're stuck in a low end work. So the idea is you need to understand what is it that you're doing wrong in life. These are just certain, examples with which you can associate and understand whether you fall in this category or not. So these three things you have to understand: the patriarchal bargain, being stuck in low end work, and asking yourself, am I really free? Am I really empowered? Am I really liberated? Or am I just lying to myself? I am just coming from one space, one cage to another. And it feels like liberation. Coming from my toxic home and coming into the toxic workspace, which I'm again not able to handle, is it freedom or liberation? Like, I'll give you one more very important example. So, a lot of times, a lot of elderly people come and say to me that, you know what, Meenakshi, in our times, divorces never happened. And my mother, she said to me that, go and just live your life, manage it somehow, because we never had the option of coming back home. And I think somewhere that was a good thing. Today's children, their parents, they are so weak and this and that, and no matter what happens, they will call their daughters back home, and that doesn't foster relationships. Now, I'm not in favor or against anything, but I have problem with both of the things. You see, the problem with us is that it's okay. Let's take this example. It's like, there is a swimming pool in front of you and nobody's teaching you swimming. What they are teaching you is they're pushing you into the water and they're telling you, you know what? One party is actually telling you, do whatever the hell you want. Even if you drown, don't come back. That is one thing. And the other party is saying, they push you into the water, and the minute you're scared, come out of it. But nobody is really teaching you how to swim. Nobody is really teaching you how to have and create relationships. Nobody is teaching you how to connect with people. Everybody is teaching you control. Everybody is teaching you it's either you or it's either them. Nobody is teaching you how to coexist. And that is the problem. So the problem was not in the in the past, the problem is not in the present. The problem is both of these things are not in our highest good. Think about it. And when you are doing all of these things and you're not working on yourself, the consequences of it is you are being punished for an emotional presence, which mind it, you will have. No matter you have it in a space which is safe for you, no matter you have it in a space which is too critical for you or too judgy for you, you cannot escape your emotional presence. You can say that, Meenakshi, I'm numb, I've shut down my emotions. You can fool anyone, but you can't fool yourself. So if you are telling me you don't have an emotional presence, you're lying to yourself. Because when you break down, when you have anxiety, when you're having panic attacks, when you're feeling restless, that is your emotional presence. When you are actually suffering from a physical disease, you are having an emotional presence. When you are suffering from a chronic disease, you are minded having an emotional presence. Every physical and mental problem starts with an unresourceful, unprocessed, unhealthy emotional presence, which, if you acknowledge, will actually help you at the end of the day. So, what do you do with your emotional presence? Ask yourself this question. What do I do with my emotional presence? Do I hate it? Am I shameful of it? Do I sacrifice it? Do I suppress it? Do I express it in a dramatic way? Or do I have a healthy space for this emotional presence to really understand it and process it and come out of it? Because unless and until you are able to process it and come out of it, you are going to have a very disconnected emotional intelligence. And no matter what you do, you will always come out as dramatic. You will always come out as someone who's too sensitive or too rude or too detached or too emotionally stiff. So think about it. What are you doing with your emotional presence and your emotions? Because your emotional presence and your emotional space is creating all of these problems: internalized shame, emotional suppression, identity confusion, poor relationships, anxiety, depression, burnouts, inauthentic success, where you often end up feeling that I am an imposter or a fraud, where you create loneliness, overthinking, silly mistakes, procrastination, feeling insecure, having a negative mindset, boredom, addiction, desensitization, oversensitization, fear, and a constant feeling of unsafety, aka not feeling in your feminine self. Because you know what? No matter how much you try to. So, I was talking to someone, and it's not just true for her or him, it's true for all of us. We all try to suppress our emotions and we all try to think that, oh, you know what, this is too overwhelming. So let me just shut my emotions out. Let me be in denial. Let me not acknowledge it. But the minute you do that, you actually become distant to yourself. You don't feel that I am me anymore. And the more you do it in life, the more distant you become. So if we are talking about the feminine self image, well, all of this is connected. You need to really understand that all of this is connected. So where are you? What are you doing? Are you just inviting problems in your life? Because you need to really connect the dots of why you are specifically facing the problems. So these are the problems that I've discussed with. And to be honest, we are at the end of this particular video. And you might say that, Meenakshi, all you have done in the past few minutes is, I didn't, just point out the problems for us. So where is the solution? The solution is always customized. So these general problems that I've shared, most of you will connect with it, most of you will not connect with it. But what you will connect with is something is your problem. And this something has a very different distorted version, your distorted version that you have about your problem or about yourself. So take some time and allow yourself to answer this question. What are my distorted perceptions about me? Because when you do that, and let's say you're sincere enough to really understand what is happening and what can be the solution for it, this is what I have for you, where I'm going to invite you for a one on one session with me, which is going to continue for an hour or so because I always take these things very seriously. So, if you're someone who's really serious and someone who's really interested in understanding herself, then, and you are not my mentee, or let's say you've never sat through any of such sessions with me, then I am inviting you for a one-on-one session to really sit down with me and try to understand what is it that you could be doing wrong. What is it that you can actually work on? What are the ways that you can really, really, really address your problem? Because you have two options. One, stay with the problem. The second is get on the call and try to understand what you are really suffering from and how distorted your thought processes are and how can you correct them, because this is the time for correction. And if you don't do it, well, your life is going to go the way it is going, and I hope it will be a good one. But if it can get better, then what is stopping you? So you have this one-on-one session which you can get on with me, and we will sit down together and we will try to understand your problem together, your distorted thoughts together, so that we can map out a framework together, a customized one, where it is just about your problem, your perception, your ideas, your experiences, and what can be done about it. So if you like this, go ahead, and if you have received this link in the WhatsApp, then obviously after you watch the video you can just DM me. And if you're watching this and you don't have my WhatsApp number, then in the description below you will find my email address. Just ping me and let's see how does it get better than this and what else is possible, and we'll take from there. So have a wonderful day today, and let's see what else is possible, and let's unmaster evolve.